Alright, so today we're going to be doing a quick video talking about the tools you need to build keyboards. Now, more specifically, handwired keyboards, although this stuff does overlap with PCB keyboards, so this stuff is basically the same. But this is kind of a prerequisite video for my upcoming workshop. It's a paid workshop series that I'm going to link down below if you want more details. It's called Scotto Academy. We'll talk about that more over the coming weeks, but this video is just kind of for everyone to kind of talk about the tools I like to use. Now, these are going to be affiliate links down below, so I do get a kickback if you use those links. I'd be thankful if you do. But there's also the stuff I personally use every day. If you're in my Discord or any of that, you see that I talk about these tools all the time. But with that, what we're going to do is we're going to just jump in and we're going to start taking a look at it. We're going to start off with the soldering tools. So on my desk here, I have 6 different things I want to talk about in the soldering section. And the first one, of course, the most important thing that we have to talk about is the soldering iron. Now, this is a TS101. It is a digital soldering iron, meaning you can control the temperature on the little screen here. I'm not going to plug it in and show all that. This isn't like an overview of each product, just kind of just giving you an idea of what I use. But it allows you to control the temperature and get very precise stuff because, say, if you're soldering a nice nano, you're going to want to be around 280 degrees Celsius. If you're soldering columns on a handwired keyboard, you're going to want to be around 300 to 320. So being able to control that digitally here is very, very nice. It allows you to do that stuff. But the big thing with this iron, the only kind of negative to it that I have to mention is that this is not the tip that it ships with. This is the tip I prefer. It's a D24 chisel tip. It's about $10 to pick one of these up. The tip it actually comes with is this one right here. It's fine if you're just doing kind of general soldering. You can make it work. But by getting this extra tip here, if I just pull this out, you can just quick swap tips, which is nice about this. What you're able to do with this, as you can see, it's kind of this cone shape there. So say my fingernail was a PCB. You can kind of put that flat on there and look how much more surface area that kind of gives you to get heat into the PCB or the diode or whatever you're soldering. It's just a much better tip. I recommend the first thing doing with this is when you buy it, pick up a D24 chisel tip, just stick with this and then just keep this around if you ever need it for something. I actually use this for heat set inserts. So when I do a heat set insert, that will actually fit in there nice. So that works really good there. That's kind of the iron there. And the big thing with this one that's really cool is because it has that USB-C port back here, it also does have a little DC plug there too. It does come with a power adapter, so you don't have to do the next part that I'm going to show you here right now. But what I do with this is I actually use this really big power bank over here. There's a Ugreen 48,000 milliamp 300 watt kind of giant power bank here. I picked this up for different reasons, not actually for the iron. I could power like some Arduinos and stuff out this, or Raspberry Pis, which is kind of cool because it gives specific voltage that you need for those. But what's cool on this port here is you can see it says 140 watts. So if you plug that in USB-C over here on the iron, you'll actually get 29 volts or 29 volts of power out of that and up to like 100 watts. So it'll heat up in like 3 seconds, which is really nice. But yeah, that's kind of the iron I use. TS101, I stuck with the TS100 before, and this is kind of the upgraded version of that, the next generation that has a little bit better shape and kind of a stand there and stuff like that. But that's the iron I like to use. Now, after the iron, the other most important thing, of course, is going to be solder. Now, this is something I've gotten slack for a lot in the past, but specifically what I like to use is right here. Let me pick this up gently, and I don't know if it has these labels say right there. Yeah, right there. 6337 leaded solder. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, lead-free solder is fine and whatnot, but factually, it is not fine. It does not perform the same as leaded solder. Soldered like this, leaded solder is what's known as eutectic, which means it heats up and cools at the same temperature, basically. It's stronger. It's just easier to work with. It leads to better joints, but the negative, of course, is that it is lead. Now, a quick talk on that in terms of lead safety. As long as you're not eating it, you're fine. The fumes that come off solder when you solder are actually the flux in it. Basically, inside of there, you probably will absolutely not be able to see this inside. Maybe I'll take a picture and show you, but there is flux inside of the actual core. But I recommend 6337 leaded solder. It just makes your life so much easier. It flows better, it cools better, it leads to stronger joints, and it's just better overall. Just make sure when you're using it that you wash your hands before eating, because lead poisoning kind of comes from eating with solder on your hands, not really breathing it so much, because the temperature that lead pretty much vaporizes into fumes is way higher than you're going to be soldering at, so you don't really have to worry about that. But that's kind of what I recommend for the solder, is just some 6337. This is very expensive, this roll. This is like a $40 roll. You definitely do not need that if you're just building a few keyboards. You can get a cheaper, like $6 roll. I'll link that down below. This is Kester brand. This is the really good stuff if you want it, but that's what I use for solder. So now we're kind of into the final, like, essential thing that's kind of just a little bit of a quality of life thing. I think the TS101 actually comes with one of these, but just a little brass sponge to clean your soldering tip. This is a 3D printed stand and stuff that I kind of made to do that. This was a design I found online and use like this. It works pretty good. Oh, you can see me in it too, which is kind of interesting, but that's that. There's also like cheaper ones like this you can get. But the beauty of that is that it basically allows you to just clean your soldering iron tips. When you're soldering, you just put it in there. Works way better than like one of the water sponges that you sometimes see, although those can be useful. This is just more useful. It's just kind of easy. And you can also get like big bags of the kind of soldering sponges for cheap too, so you can just replace them. Just kind of the last thing I'd recommend is just having a brass sponge to clean your soldering iron tip. Also, I will mention here is that when you're not using your iron, you can kind of see on mine here that I actually have solder on the tip there. Don't clean your iron before storing it. You want to keep a little bit of solder on it because it will actually preserve that tip. tip and kind of prevent corrosion. Although this tip is kind of getting a little bit old. I do a lot of keyboards, so they kind of wear out, but just keep some solder on it before you store it. It will preserve the tip life. So now those are kind of the 3 essential things for building keyboards, both hand wired or PCBs. But now I want to focus kind of on some more things that are focused a little bit towards PCBs, although they do come in handy for hand wired stuff. So really there's just 3 things here. We're just going to run through them really quick. This is some solder wick here. This is basically for cleaning up solder when you need to. It comes in a few different sizes. It's pretty cheap, but it just kind of looks like that. You can put it on and suck up solder. It has flux in it, so you want to be careful when using this because it does make a lot of fumes and they stink really bad. You want to be like near a ventilated area, but this will pull the solder right up off pads and places on your keyboard that you need to get that off. So that's kind of important there. Very cheap. It's like $6 for a little thing like this, and it'll last you quite a while. The other one that we'll talk about cleaning right now is actually a solder sucker. This is a SS03. This is kind of the new one. Basically put that in, you put it on your little PCB. There's actually a piece of solder in there. Let me get that out really quick. You can see they'll just pull off the solder, so that's really nice to kind of clean up joints. This is really good when desoldering PCBs. Actually, you can get away with the cheaper ones, but this is the one I've had the most success with. The cheaper ones don't really work as well, and they also don't have this like flexible silicone tip, which is really nice because you kind of get a good seal and really pull the solder up. And then the final thing here is you want a flux pen of some sort. You don't need this one necessarily. This one's just the one that I've had for a few years now. It works great. This is more for like surface mount work, so this isn't really useful for any like hand wiring stuff as much, but if you're doing like a PCB with surface mount diodes, this is kind of essential to kind of clean stuff and get stuff flowing properly. So there are the soldering tools out of the way. There's not really much there that you need. I mean, of course, there's a lot more stuff you can get, but those are kind of the core stuff. And now if we look on the table here, I have kind of the tools that you're going to want with some optional stuff, of course, thrown in. But we're going to start with, of course, are these right here, which are my wire strippers. These are very good ones that I got. You don't need the expensive, nice ones like this. You can get cheaper ones too. You need some sort of wire stripper. So you can see these here. We have all these different sizes here just to kind of pull the rubberized or silicone coating off wire. In particular, they're for hand-wired keyboards. You know, you're not really going to be using these if you're doing PCBs, but for hand-wired, you use these all the time. So having a nice pair is kind of nice to have. Now, the next one here, of course, is you're going to want some flush cutters. So what I mean by flush cutter, so if we look on the back here, you can see how that is completely flat, meaning you can get really kind of close into stuff. These are good for both PCB and hand wire boards because you could cut, say, a through-hole diode really close to the PCB. I mean, you can get right on there and cut it flat with the PCB and not really have much protruding, so that's why these are really nice there. So these are kind of the core tools you're going to need to build keyboards of any sort. These are more for hand wired stuff. These are more for both PCB and hand wired here. But then of course you're going to need a few other things, which are screwdrivers right here. Now these are kind of sets that were sent to me, but I also bought these in the past for myself. These are the newer ones. These are basically just screwdriver sets. I mean, they're not really that fancy. You definitely don't need all these kind of bits here. Really all you're going to ever be using specifically with my designs are M2 hex heads. So we have in here, we have just a little M2 kind of hex head right there. That's really all you're going to use, or maybe a Phillips head or a flat head. These sets are pretty nice because they're kind of pretty affordable and you pretty much have every screwdriver you'll ever need for really anything. This one's just a manual one, so you can just manually do it. But also they do have this option, which is kind of nice, particularly for some of my designs that have a ton of screws. You might have seen that with like the Scotto Wing, the original one, maybe the Scotto Command. Link those videos below. But these are really nice too because they have like a powered option if you have a lot of screws. These are really, really nice. So just kind of 2 options there to keep in mind that you're going to want some screwdrivers of some sort. Doesn't need to be these exactly, but as long as you have screwdrivers, you're pretty much good to go. Now the optional things here, or maybe partially optional, is that we have just a tweezer. You're going to want some sort of tweezer. These are good for holding stuff on the PCB and stuff. Not as much for hand wiring. You're not going to use tweezers too much. You might use it when kind of pulling cables around to get them under columns and stuff, but these are really useful when doing like surface mount diodes where you can kind of hold the diode on the PCB, say like that, and then solder it in place. So that's where you're going to use these more. And then optionally, you're going to want some safety glasses. I of course have glasses, so I don't worry about this too much, but solder can sometimes pop. You know, it can have the flux and it kind of explodes and goes everywhere, and that wouldn't be very good to get in your eye. It does sting when you get on your skin, so having some goggles is a good idea, or some sort of protection to keep your eyes good, you know. But with that, these are kind of the core tools you're going to need to build really any keyboard. Really, this is the only one specific to hand wiring. The rest of this is just pretty much any keyboard. You're going to want this stuff, and you probably have this around the house anyway already, but those are kind of the core things there. So now with the tools out of the way, we're in kind of the final section of this where we're going to talk about the general components. This stuff is really focusing more on the hand wiring aspect of stuff because this is really stuff you're going to use for regular PCB keyboards. What we have here is kind of a lot of stuff on the desk. A lot of it's kind of repetitive too, but this is kind of the core stuff you're going to need. First thing I want to talk about specifically for the handwire keyboards are these right here, which are just various copper wires, right? The main thing you're going to be using is this right here, which is just 16 gauge solid copper wire. I believe this is actually called dead soft because it's made for like jewelry making, meaning it's very flexible. You know, it's not heat hardened or whatever, where after you work with it, it kind of gets harder. And a tip with this that I can kind of give is to straighten it, because you probably see on a lot of my videos I have straighten wire. So you kind of cut a length of this, you put it in a drill and clamp one end in like a plier, you spin it on the drill and it will straighten it right out. But this is the core of what you're going to use for hand-wired keyboards, is 16 gauge copper wire. And the reason I choose 16 gauge is that it's very strong. It adds a lot of weight to it. You can use thinner one. The thinner one actually has the benefit of it heats up faster, but 16 gauge is what I recommend kind of learning with, because it adds strength to the board, it adds weight to it, and just, it works really good. It's what I've stuck with for a few years now, and that's kind of what I recommend there. Now, the reason I have these other ones here is that this here is actually kind of applicable to PCBs. It's just 24 gauge. This is good for like some sockets. So if you're socketing a controller, which we'll talk about in a different video I actually have coming out, but basically you use this as pins to kind of socket that controller, and it works really well for that. And then finally, I have a thinner one, either 28 gauge or 30 gauge is what I use. It's just very thin there. This is good for like direct wired stuff. So if you want to like tie a bunch of pins together for say a ground plane, this is very good for that. Now with copper wire, you can actually get this all in a pack. So you can kind of get a pack that comes with like 28 gauge, 24 gauge, a bunch of different ones. That's that there. Now the next thing we talk about is, I spilled it out here, it looks like just some heat shrink tubing. This is for hand wiring, of course, is that I have these kind of pre-cut. I cut them like that so it's a little easier, but this is specifically marine heat shrink, meaning inside of it is a little bit of glue, so this will hold down. You can use regular heat shrink too, but the marine stuff gives it a little bit more thickness to the wall, so you're less likely to kind of burn through it and have shorts. So I really recommend the marine stuff. You can also get that pretty cheap for a pack of a lot of this, and then you can just cut it down to length. Typically what we want around a centimeter long, maybe a little bit, 8 millimeters long or so, just to kind of insulate those kind of intersections so you don't have shorts between your columns and rows. The next thing here that's really important is this right here, which is just UV resin. I will talk about this in addition to this here. I can't find my hot glue gun, but this is just a bunch of hot glue. You can use either hot glue or UV resin. And what we use this for is actually mounting the controller into the case. So the thing with UV resin is it is beautiful. So we have our UV resin here, and then we have a little UV light right here. And now the thing with this is that it's very easy to use. You just put a little UV resin, you put this for a few seconds, it hardens right up, it works good, but it is toxic. So you want to probably wear gloves when doing this, specifically nitrile gloves. You can get a little on your hand if you're not using it all the time. It's not going to be the end of the world, but just kind of be a little safe with this. You don't really want to breathe it too much, stuff like that. So maybe for beginners, this isn't the best method, but the properties of what we're going to do with this are the same between both. So you can go with UV resin, but probably for a beginner, or you probably already have it in your house, honestly, it's just hot glue. It's just for mounting the controller in the case. I haven't found a really good way to kind of mount it without a sort of glue. For now, I recommend either UV resin or hot glue for mounting your controller. Now, the other thing I have on here is that I have some silicone wire here. This is specifically silicone wire. Now, there are different types of wire. There's typically like a PVC coated, but the thing with silicone wire, and I believe this is a 30 gauge here, so it's very thin. This is what I recommend. It's kind of a 30 gauge. Comes in this box for like 20 bucks of a bunch of different colors, and I think these are like 100 feet each of just a bunch of wire. But the thing with silicone wire is look how flexible that is. You can really kind of wrap this around stuff and kind of get it in places pretty much all over your board very easily. It's just very good, and it's thin enough but not too thin where it's going to break easily. So that's what I recommend. It's just some 30 gauge silicone wire, pretty good. So that's what I use there. The other thing on the table is some Captain tape. This isn't necessarily that useful for like hand wired boards as much, but it can be useful for holding things down. It's basically heat tape that will take heat from your iron very well, so it won't melt as easily. So you can see it's just some thin tape like that. But this is actually really good for PCB boards if you want to hold something in place. So like a controller on a PCB or something, you can use this to hold it down. Which, while we're on the topic of that, actually, let me grab over here. This is actually kneaded eraser for like drawing, and this is actually really good for hand wire builds. You can kind of rip off a piece like that and kind of hold stuff in place. This will melt if you hit it with your iron, so you want to be careful about that. But it's very cheap. I think it's like 10 bucks for like way more than this. I mean, you get like a brick of it, like a ton of it, but you can hold cables in place. I've actually used it in builds before to kind of hold wires in place, but this is kind of useful too right there to hold stuff. And then finally is this container here. This is my core hand wiring hardware. We have 8mm female to female standoffs, some little hex head M2 by 5mm screws there that I use on the bottom of the case. I use these little pan head ones on the plate. Now, depending on what you're designing, you may want different sizes of this stuff, but 8mm gives you enough height between the bottom of the case and the top of the plate, so you kind of have enough clearance to close everything in there. You can push it with 6mm. I think I've also done 4mm. This is kind of all the stuff here that you would want in terms of components and stuff to really build them, with the only things being for PCB really this here and this here pretty much. All right, so yeah, that's kind of a quick overview of the stuff you're really going to need to build pretty much hand-wired keyboards and PCB keyboards. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning of this is kind of a prerequisite video to my paid workshop course I have coming up. The first one's going to be for a 3x3 macro pad. I'm aiming to launch it at the end of this month, but I'll link the information for that down below if you are interested. But this is also kind of the start of a series of shorter videos I want to do covering various things with keyboards to kind of help beginners jump into them a little bit easier too. So of course we covered the tools and stuff now, but the next video I want to do is going to be either on controllers or it's going to be on soldering. I might do the soldering one first because I want to kind of talk about how to solder stuff to make people's life a little bit easier, because I get a lot of questions on that. We already touched kind of the tools you need, so if you have the stuff from this video, you'll be fine to jump into that next one. But with that, I hope this was helpful, and as usual, comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.